Hello, hello, and welcome to the Pagan Podcast. If you're new to this channel, then thank you for stopping by, and please like and subscribe and join us on this path. If you have been listening in for a while, then hello again. Nice to have you here. And if you have subscribed, many thanks. And if you haven't subscribed, then please do this to help me and YouTube so that it determines whether my podcast is good enough to let it go out to other people, which would be really helpful. Now, my name is Carolyn and I've been on this path for over 40 years, having been prompted by Spirit World in my early teens. Now, please bear in mind that we are all individual souls and we are all on our own path, and we walk our path determined by what we need to learn or perhaps need to teach others. So therefore, as we walk through the year, we have the ability to tap into ideas and celebrations to aid us on our way and give us something to look forward to. Now, you may have a religion that you already follow the teachings of. That's great for where you are right now. It may change in your future, it may not. But what matters is you are on a path that you need to be on at this moment in time. Which is why this channel comes under a pagan umbrella of nature-based spiritual paths, which are basically Druidry and Witchcraft, but not religious in any way, because religion is your personal choice. If you're new to the Wheel of the Year, I have recorded a podcast about the wheel already, so feel free to go and have a listen to that one as well. I'll leave a link to it in the show notes, in the description box below if you're interested. So what is Samhain all about? Well, there is a misconception that Halloween is just Samhain modernised, which is not true, as it has its history deep in the past of our ancestors, who wouldn't have called it by the same names we use now, but the energies are still very much the same. Samhain is known as a cross-quarter day if you look on the wheel. It's opposite Beltane, and it cuts the festival quarter from the equinox to the winter solstice in two. Now, we have only vague ideas of what our ancestors would have done through historical writings and archaeology, and in fact most of what they did is just normal for now. It's the same, bringing in our animals from summer pastures closer to home, prepping foods to last over the winter period, looking to the stars to see the alignment and getting ready for the dark and cold times. Now, our ancestors only had two seasons, summer and winter, and the winter seasons began at Samhain and the summer season began at Beltane. And of course, if you're listening to this in the Southern Hemisphere, you're the other way around. It's now Beltane for you and the beginning of summer. And I have done a podcast on that if you want to go and have a listen to that, you can do. So in the Northern Hemisphere, the light would be diminishing, the trees are losing their leaves, and it was a way of celebrating the year that had passed, the natural flow of life, death and rebirth, and also ancestors who had passed away. Now in Mexico, we know of the Day of the Dead, and this is very much what Samhain was also about to our ancestors on this side of the globe. There are many other names like Festival of Remembrance, Feast of Apples, and for most pagans as well who follow their path, it could be their new year. It was a time of divination. Those who were Druid seers would predict the coming year and the events, and the High Kings of Ireland held a week-long festival for this very purpose, which is how we can understand where some of our customs have come from. We have more knowledge of these festivals from the medieval period, and in early medieval Ireland, Samhain was a major festival, as all harvests were in, all the legal stuff had been completed, sort of the feuds and rents and contracts and disputes all been sorted. However, the Welsh had no name for Samhain, and the festival in Wales was called Calan Gaeaf, which means first day of winter. I think I've pronounced that as near enough, but I apologise to any Welsh listeners going, oh, you got that wrong again. I don't want to repeat the information I've recorded on last year's podcast, so if you want a bit more history on events and why things took place, feel free to pop along and have a listen to that one after you've listened to this. The carving out of pumpkins to make lanterns were to frighten off the evil spirits roaming the land, but in the UK we didn't have pumpkins. I'm trying to think back to my childhood and remember if I'd actually seen one. And as for pumpkin pie and tinned pumpkin, well, that was just really exotic. I mean, I grew up in a village, so we certainly wouldn't have had those in our little village post office. Now, depending on where you lived in England, and probably parts of the UK as well, you wouldn't have had the pumpkins, but you might have had large turnips, mangel wurzels, and in my case, sugar beet. And for about 8 years I lived in an area of North Nottinghamshire on the border of South Yorkshire, and all our farmers grew sugar beet because it was easy for lorries to transport it down the A1 road to Newark-on-Trent, where British Sugar had its refining plant, and you could find a lot of these beets piled up in corners of farmers' fields waiting to be collected, and of course we went scrumping. But oh, did we rip our hands to bits. We really did. Unlike the soft, easy to cut flesh of a pumpkin, these were rock hard, and you could destroy a kitchen knife in minutes. Now, some friends were really lucky if their dad or granddad had grown pumpkins on their little allotment or in the back garden, but the likelihood of him growing enough never happened, so we had to cope with blunt knives. Well, our parents weren't going to give us a sharp one, were they? Occasionally, a parent would feel sorry for one of us and help out, but that was a really rare occasion. I think the term character building was used because every year we did the same thing for a few years, and then I think we got a bit too old for it, and all our younger siblings had seen the suffering and pain that we'd gone through in trying to carve out our sugar beets and gone, not doing that. However, we'd dress up and we'd have parties and be mischievous in our village, and it was all harmless fun. There was no trick-or-treating, and I have read in some places that Mischief Night was on the 30th of October. Now, I'm not sure why, as I grew up mainly in the north of sort of Yorkshire area, and customs and Mischief Night was on the 4th of November because the mischief was about Guy Fawkes blowing up the Houses of Parliament. So we used to celebrate it then. Now, we used to get up to loads of harmless fun in our village, but nothing scary or illegal or frightening to other people. So before you start putting comments underneath going, oh no, you shouldn't have done that, I bet there was some scared elderly folk, that wasn't what we did. To be honest, the most exciting thing we ever did would be lift a gate off somebody's front garden and tuck it down the side of their house one year, and they knew it was us because we were looking out the window. Nothing was ever said. They just tucked because everybody knew on Mischief Night a few of us kids would be out there, and it was a very small village. So to be fair, if you were seen by somebody knew who you were, and before you knew it, you could have just been walking through the village with the dog. But if something had happened, you'd been seen, and there was a phone call always made to your mother that you were walking past such and such at the time. So to be fair, you couldn't really get up to a lot, but we still went out and had some fun. If we look deeper into Samhain, it is about death, and as I've already mentioned briefly, it's about the passage of life, death and rebirth. There's a belief that this is the time of the year the veil between the living and the dead becomes so thin that they can pass through and visit us, and we can connect with them. Now, this belief is still in place, and many people use this time of the year to connect through meditation, divination, and maybe things such as a Ouija board with family. Now, some people like to hold a dumb supper, where an extra setting is made for a family member who in spirit will join them. Now, the word dumb is used because no one speaks. And I don't know why, really, to be honest. I have only ever heard about dumb supper via the internet. I was quite used to having set a place at the table every year for another member of the family to cross over and come join us, but never to call it dumb, which I find incredibly bizarre. You know, if my family were popping back in from the other side for tea, I would want a really good chat with them. Maybe it was about people not being able to hear because they weren't connecting properly to the energies, so therefore they had to keep it silent to maybe hopefully hear somebody. But for me, it's not about hearing somebody speak, it's about the energy of knowing that they've joined you. I don't know whether any of you have seen the film, the animated movie, Coco, released in 2017. Now, I absolutely love that film. If there's any sort of animated film for this time of the year, for me it has to be that one, because I think it's just so much fun watching them crossing over the bridge, the spirit world, and of course at the end they all come back. And that's a really lovely film, and I do like to watch that one amongst others. So for me, Samhain is about now. I love folklore and history of what our ancestors may have done at this time of the year, but I'm not here to reenact something from the last 2,500 years. Depending on your path, you may like to spend it reflecting on the previous year and of any goals or challenges you have overcome. How did your year work out? Perhaps reflect back on your life and learn from any mistakes you made, anything you feel you could have done better, and praise yourself for a job well done if you have achieved something great in whatever you did. I think we all are fairly good at goal setting or setting our new intentions, but do we truly look back at what we did or didn't do, or maybe messed up or did right? I mean, I'm probably one of those that I will set myself loads of intentions at the beginning of a new moon, and then by the full moon I haven't got the time to go and think, did I actually do any of those things? A small year reflection is always good. There may be something you'd forgotten about. Maybe there'll be a lesson learned, and reflecting back on those things, good or bad, and then allowing them to clear out of our system and to not take those energies forward into the new year is also something that is really good to do, and then to be able to move on towards the next season. Going back to celebrating our ancestors, and I've just spoken about the dumb suppers. Now, the reason why we do this is because the energies at this time allow you to create and allow you to draw in the energies of this veil between the worlds, giving you the ability to connect with the family members. Now, this doesn't for 1 minute mean that the curtain is going to dramatically open like a theatre curtain and in come waltzing all your dead family from the past, high kicking their way into your home, doing the can-can. But it does mean we can sit in reflection and connect with the energies of those who have passed, and also willing to connect with us. Now, spirits don't just sit there waiting for twice a year to do this. You know, they don't sit there at Beltane thinking, oh, right, great, curtain's going to open, we can go through, hi, here we are. That's not what it's about. Some of them may already be moving into working through their own paths. Because of what I do as a past life regression therapist, I have worked with many people, and I suppose I really ought to do a podcast on this at some point so it's understandable. But we all have things that we need to do when we've finished our human interaction and our human experience. But you could set up an ancestor altar, place or pets, actually, if you wanted to. It hasn't even got to be ancestors. You can even have it for your pets or just friends who have crossed over. You can place flowers and food there if you like. The ancient Egypts knew about this. They got this right. They built what was called a false door into the tombs of the kings, queens and nobles, and food would be left at that door, and it was believed that the spirit of the departed would take the food into the afterlife to sustain them. They didn't take the food, literally. They took the energy of the food. All food has energy. Not just the type of energy that we think that gives us the ability to move and the ability to sustain life, but it has energy on an etheric level. So it's the energy of not only you leaving that gift for an ancestor, flowers, food, whatever, but also it's the energy of the food itself, and that is life sustaining, and that was what was believed by the ancient Egyptians, and I think that still follows through today. We leave flowers on gravesides, don't we? And that energy of those flowers is a remembrance, and therefore it is giving the energy of those flowers to the member of your family. So even if you don't have photographs or you don't have anything at all, but you have an area that you have as an altar or you have as a sacred space, you can use that just to put some flowers. Just that thought of passing that energy of those flowers onto your family member would be absolutely wonderful. And you can sit and do a bit of meditation and think about them or an animal that you've lost or anybody at all. Even somebody famous, somebody famous you like. It hasn't got to be an ancestor. It can be absolutely anybody that you wanted to send a little message to at this time of the year. Something I'm personally doing this year with my mum and my daughter is booking a table at a local cafe for tea and cakes. Now, we've booked a table for 4. And the 4th place will be in memory of my mum's closest friend who recently passed away, very unexpected. She was like a second nanny to my daughter, and one of those people whose hearts were so open wide to help anyone, any animal, anyone she could. She would always be there for my mum in the evening. They'd both go obviously to bed, and they'd be WhatsApping each other. But sadly, she passed away. So what we thought we'd do, we've already had the funeral. We went there. As I'm recording this, that was last week, so that was quite upsetting for everybody involved. But we wanted to take my mum's friend Lynn out for one last hot chocolate to celebrate. She always had a hot chocolate with all the trimmings. So we've booked a table at a favourite cafe that we used to take her to, and we are going to put a little photograph of her up, and we're going to buy her a hot chocolate and put the hot chocolate in front of her photograph, and she will receive the energy and spirit from that hot chocolate, and she will know that we're thinking about her. And this is something, if you wanted to do yourselves, you can. You can also take time out for yourself. Now, take a walk in nature I talk about this all the time, don't I, on the podcast, saying get out there, connect with the energies of time and place. If you have a favourite place to walk, then spend some time there connecting with the path of nature, to just walk through the trees. You've got abscission going on, depending on where you are. We're still waiting to lose a lot of our leaves at the moment, but they are turning, so we're obviously getting a bit chillier. Maybe try a new place to walk. It may have something to teach you as you're walking through. Open yourself to accept any teachings from Mother Earth, trees and the plants, fungi, and, of course, the Fae. The Pagan podcast is about nature after all, and when we nurture it, we nurture ourselves, as energetically we are all connected. Plants are medicine and here to offer support on our path, whether that's food, with its fruits, vegetables, mushrooms, or herbally working to ease us through this lifetime. Now, Mother Earth has a marvellous way of grounding us. Barefoot on the grass, 30 minutes, has already been proved to help our bodies kick off those energy-blocking rubber-soled shoes. And if it's a little bit chilly, put a pair of pure cotton, linen or wool socks on, and then just sit and let the earth energies through. Just a walk through a woodland, smelling the air, watching the trees, collecting leaves can change our mood. A walk by the sea, lake or river is just as good. And wait for those leaves to fall and walk and crunch through the leaves. If you can and the weather's dry enough, which here in in lovely England we still can't decide what weather we want this time of the year, get outside and do a spot of gardening if you have one to do. Tidy up before the winter really sets in. And if you're able, perhaps help somebody else out who maybe needs some help with their garden. Family meals are always a great way to celebrate using the foods of the season. Make sure you choose the correct type of pumpkin though. Those ones in the UK that we have generally to carve are not the edible type, because if you obviously are used to carving pumpkins, there's not a lot in there that's worth eating. They are mass produced, ready for the carving season, so they aren't produced to be tasty. I think if you decided to use the flesh of one of the carving pumpkins, it wouldn't taste particularly pleasant. They are mass produced, ready for this, and that's why they only cost a couple of quid. My local shop had them the other day, and I thought these prices are actually going down, which I find quite scary for the farmers who are producing them, to be fair. I always like to do a protection ritual for my house and family for the coming year to keep us all safe and well, and I'll do that using a handmade incense if I have the time, or if not, I will actually go and buy from Etsy to help a small local business in the UK. You can also do rituals or spells for prosperity for the coming year. In fact, you can just about do anything you like that works with your path, because it's the intention that counts. If I have the chance, I will make Rosemary Gladstar's fire cider, and I also keep my eye on the sloe berries out in the fields, and also the dog roast hips are all over the farm where I keep my horses, and the lovely farmer lets me take some of those and make some syrup. I also make kombucha, which is a fermented drink that is much healthier in our system than drinking soda, or as we call it in the UK, a can of pop. And I like to drink cacao. If you like to settle down with a cup of tea, here's a lovely recipe for an apple cinnamon tisane tea. It's very simple. It is just rooibos tea or green tea if you prefer a lighter tea, a stick of cinnamon, and 2 to 4 tablespoons of either dried dessert apple or a whole fresh apple. If you wish, you can add marigold leaves, because these are believed to help with psychic abilities if you are going to take it a step further and use it for meditation purposes, but please check that if you are taking any other form of medication, that there's no contraindication. Now add them all to a pan, pour over boiling water and allow to steep for 5 minutes. Now strain that then into cups and add some honey or stevia, but the apple should make it sweet enough. Then sit back and enjoy the autumn vibes. You can also make an incense for Samhain. A good one is 2 parts of frankincense, 1 part sandalwood, 1 part of mugwort and half a part of rosemary. Now obviously these are all dried, and when I say part, perhaps that might be a teaspoon, it might be a tablespoon. It's up to you how much you want of this. Make sure they are all dry and then burn these on a charcoal disc to protect the home and to protect yourself. However, if all of this is just too much or you're too busy, I'm not going to tell you, oh, you must take time out for yourself, because I hate it when people say that to me. What I am going to say is don't let the season pass you by, even if all you can do on Samhain is place some fresh flowers in a vase or light a small candle next to a few family photos of your loved ones who have crossed over. That energy will reach them. Whatever you do, big or small, have a wonderful time as our season is changing. We are now walking deeper towards the dark days, and before we know it, be the winter solstice and Alban Arthur. So much love and light from my grove to yours, and never forget, you are truly a magnificent entity. If you walk your path with love and authenticity, then your path will rise up and meet you and take you on a powerful and inspiring journey. Enjoy your connection to the energies of Samhain or Calan Gaeaf. Have a wonderful time. Thank you for listening in. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you again on the next podcast. Bye for now.